and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day today to be with me and my guests. I greatly appreciate it. Well, we're going to highlight a very special location that's in Guilford, Connecticut. It's called the Shoreline Arts Alliance, and Eric Dillner, the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director, is my guest today. And Eric, thank you so much for being here today. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
Why don't we start with you? I know the viewers are going to be very curious about you. Take us to your background. Where have you been? What are you all about? Bring us up to date.
Well, where do we begin? I'm fortunate to have grown up in a great community with a great school system in St. Louis, Missouri, believe it or not, that I thought hockey was my life, actually, at that point. I just lived and breathed it, but by day at school, arts and music was around me just as if it was the norm, so to speak. I was in the band, I was in the chorus, just enjoyed all of that, but didn't know how later in life special that was going to be to me. So I went off to business school, actually, to pursue an accounting degree, and kind of missed the arts and figured out that maybe I should head that way. So fast forward, great opportunities in a couple of other colleges led me down the path. I actually left a master's degree in opera production because the jobs started coming, believe it or not. I was one of those lucky folks and had the opportunity to sing in some wonderful houses around the country and touching out in the world as well. So I found myself at New York City Opera as what they call a house tenor, singing whatever came through every night. So every night it was a different show, kind of rotating 3 shows a week, 3 different kinds of shows a week. From Traviata, Barbara Seville to Carousel. I mean, all the great musicals also happened there. And I kept looking at my boss there and saying, "Wow, I love what you do. Wonder how that might happen that I could spin into that someday." So I went to him and I asked that very question. And I ended up taking a pause from the singing and going to University of Missouri Columbia and running the opera program there, and that fed into running an opera company and a Broadway company. I've been so really fortunate to live in the musical world for quite some time, and then. My wife's from Connecticut, and we love Connecticut, and we just moved back to Connecticut to take on this great adventure with the Shoreline Arts Alliance. I have such a great opportunity here because I get to work in all the arts now, not just music, but visual arts and all those. So probably way too long of a background, but funny transition back to this time, I guess.
Well, no, it's wonderful because I've spent some time on your website, which we will put up the address of your website to be able to let the viewer know more about you and more about the Alliance. So it's great that they get to know you first before we start talking about what the Shoreline Alliance is all about. Why don't you tell us what brought you to Connecticut, but what brought you to the Shoreline Arts Alliance to begin with?
Well, it was an interesting time. I actually at that point was working down in Florida, in Tampa, at the second largest arts organization in the country, running 5 different theaters, running from theater to theater. And my wife and I had this young little boy, about 7 years old, and I felt like I wasn't getting to spend much time with them. So we kept trying to figure out what was the next step. And my wife actually found that Shoreline Arts Alliance was in kind of a rough patch. They didn't have a CEO. They didn't have money. They were struggling. And so and they had put a job offer out, and then they took it back. And so I reached out to them anyway, and basically after about a year, we came to an agreement that this would be just, my wife and I did, that this would be just a joy to get to move to Connecticut, spend time. Like I said, hockey was a part of my early life. My son was starting to play hockey. So maybe I could come back and enjoy that. Now I'm the lucky kid who gets to coach hockey for the Daniel Hand High School and also West Haven High School with my son at Daniel Hand. So I think Shoreline Arts Alliance drew us because I love helping build and I love connecting with people. So those two things I knew would come out of this job, and I got to tell you, it's a life, not a job, really. I love every minute of it. Trying to figure out what the next direction is, because Shoreline Arts Alliance is 40 years old. It's done amazing work in terms of giving scholarships out to young folks to help them go off to college. We do an awards ceremony for visual arts with the Lime Academy College of Fine Arts out there at the great gallery that they have there. And again, I know they're not in the same business they were, but we're going to do it again this year. So Shoreline Arts Alliance had 13 or 14 programs that they were helping, in addition to being the Arts Council for the region. So I just thought, what a fun job, and I was right. It's a great community to live in. So what more can I ask for?
Now, the Shoreline Arts Alliance, does that cover a strategic area in the state of Connecticut, or are you national?
So that's a great question. So we cover 24 towns under the auspices of the Connecticut Office of the Arts. So that's Lyme to East Haven and all the way up to Middlesex County. So we serve that area under their guise. However, that came 20 years into Shoreline Arts Alliance's life. And we were already producing a photography competition statewide, a children's book writing competition statewide. So we've always kind of had the boundaries didn't restrict us. And the program that I think you took a little taste of a few days ago or yesterday with Reopen Connecticut Arts Venues, which is called Science-Based Safety. That program is national. Matter of fact, we have folks in Canada and around the world also help looking to us for help. So great question, tough question to answer. There is no one answer. We do an awful lot for a lot of folks, and I think that's what makes it a joy.
Alliances in the nation besides yours?
Yes, the state of Connecticut has another. I always forget the number. I think it's 7 other arts councils in the state, and they're not really based on county, but you can kind of think of it that way. There's an east and a west and north and south kind of, and then there are arts councils around the country, and then there are what we call state arts councils. So the Connecticut Office of the Arts is the state arts council, which we work closely with. And then there are those in each state. Typically, the government of the state appoints somebody. So it's usually an appointed, like a commissioner type office.
Now, yesterday you were kind enough to invite me to a webinar. Do you do that often, of having speakers talk about what's happening with an association to the arts?
Yeah, so that's a great question. March, we all had something weird happen to us all, right? This crazy thing we call COVID-19 happened. And you remember my background being in the arts. I woke up one day, I think it was actually on Saturday morning, and I realized I started to hurt for all those folks who were running arts organizations and what they were thinking. Like, how am I going to move forward with what do I do with my staff? What do I do with my building? What do I do with all those things? And so literally, my first plan was to reach out to Yale School of Public Health, and I talked to the dean of Yale School of Public Health. His name is Sten Fairmund, and I said, we need your guidance. We need to look through the lens of science and try to figure out how to address what's going on. At that point, I thought it might be a couple of months that we were going to have this challenge. And so we started a webinar series. I had not done Zoom before, so I learned Zoom as fast as I possibly could, and bought the webinar service, and we launched a webinar, and we had over 1,000 people in our first webinar, and it's only grown. We now have about 10,000 viewers. We've done them approximately once a month. For a while we were doing it twice a month, and we really just address what are the challenges of the day for these arts organizations, and we bring in speakers along with STEM Fair Moon. So we deal a lot with heating and the air movement in buildings. We help folks with that. And we helped that we were on the cutting edge, I guess you'd say, discussing signage for washing your hands and wearing a mask and all of those kinds of things, so that we could help open some venues. And some of your recent guests, actually, we've been to their spot to help them open, like the Florence Griswold Museum. We went to their museum on a site visit, and we looked at what they were thinking and how they were thinking about how to open, and we talked about how to use the bathrooms. They had a great situation where they could actually put a lock on what usually is like a public restroom free flow. They could put a lock on it and make it so that one person could go in safely and lock themselves in there, so that they weren't concerned while they were in there about being exposed to someone else's virus. And pattern of flow going through the historic home and through the museum, and actually moving the tickets sales online as well as outdoors. Mark Twain House is another one that we had a great visit with. So it's not just, I know I started with all this Broadway musical theater, but many of those plans. So yes, this project is something that we thought was a short-term project, and now we've figured out that this is a long-term project, which is actually going to lead to probably an even more important process, which is the idea of consumer confidence, and what can we do as arts venues to be ready to help people know that they're going to be safe in our environment. And so we're working with public health officials to, when venues open, offering the opportunity for us to bring folks in, take a look at the space, give it a little, I'll call it a stamp of approval, and then help them broadcast that through videos and some PSAs and those kinds of things. So it has a long range plan.
Well, let's hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We'll be right back.
So you think you're safe in your COVID bubble, huh? You don't wear your mask because you're around each other all the time and you trust each other. If only it were that simple. Let's say you go over to your neighbor's house. That's okay, right? They're in your bubble. But your neighbor goes to work and has a coworker that doesn't wear a mask over his nose. And that coworker has a family and grown children that also go to work. Your neighbor also has a close relative who goes to bonfires at another friend's house regularly, where everyone is close together but don't wear masks because they're outside, and they all have families and coworkers. That's just your neighbor. That doesn't include your neighbor's neighbors, or your sister, your aunt, your best friend, or even your dad. The point is, everyone you know has a network. Everyone in their network has a network, and it only grows from there. So when you think you're hanging out with just 10 people, you're really hanging out with 100, 500, maybe 1,000. We'd hate to burst your bubble, but you don't have one. So think twice before venturing out. Keep your guard and your mask up whenever you're around anyone who doesn't live in your immediate household, even if they're trusted family or friends. That's the best way to stay safe and healthy.
Welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. We're talking about the Shoreline Arts Alliance, which is based in Guilford, Connecticut. And Eric Dillner, the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director, continues to be my guest today. And Eric, of course, thank you so much for staying with us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is great fun. Thank you.
Good. Perfect time to talk about and maybe even also wrap up about COVID. Has it affected the arts industry as a whole and the performers?
Yeah, this is a tough time for everyone, obviously, but the individual artist whose lifeblood was on the self-employed type of situation where they were gigging from job to job. I'll call it the gig community. Those folks, those jobs just all stopped basically. And those teachers who are the teachers of art in many of these spaces, it all stopped. So the voice teachers teaching opera singers who are traveling the world over. Now the opera singer doesn't have a job, so now the teacher probably doesn't have a job. So on the level of the individual, tough, tough, tough. And then of course, the theaters and the museums and all those folks who had to make the tough decision. What do we do with all these fantastic employees that we have who just don't, we don't have an opportunity for them at this moment. So the industry is hurting, hurting, hurting. It's also what I think is what I think is remarkable is that the industry is being looked to for mental health, for help to deal with COVID. And so my job is bigger than it's ever been. It's more time consuming than it's ever been. I'm working from home, but it's round the clock because we have so many people of need right now. So the Shoreline Arts Alliance, I have the greatest board of directors. They all totally get it that we need to focus on even more deeply helping others find a way to get back to work. And of course, we want to do that with prudence and in a strategic manner so that it's a healthy decision to go back to work. So that's where we addressed it from the ground up. But what's fascinating is that and wonderful is that here in Connecticut, the governor made a decision to grant $9 million out to the theaters and educational facilities. So that was fantastic to help. We sure need more, and it left out a lot of organizations, like a service agency, like all the arts councils in the state of Connecticut. There's no assistance in that manner for us. So we are actually turning to our individual donors and saying, more than ever, we need the help. To be honest, I've asked my staff in January to please the part-time, the folks who are hourly, please be available for more time. Over the summer, we worked and worked and worked with more time on their plate. And if we could, we'd hire more, to be honest with you at this point. So our effort now, and I'm very excited about this, is we're adding 4 new board members at the first of the year who are excited to jump in and start helping us with that process to help with individual giving and corporate giving, and see if there's a way to find a marriage there that helps the corporation and the individual who's helping us help all these folks in the community. So great question. I wish I had a different answer. I wish I could say we're all flourishing and it's the best. But I will tell you, we just launched a program called Future Voices, and you should take a look at our website. It's fantastic. People, artists, sent in videos of them tap dancing, singing, amazing paintings, photography, a lot of literature, poetry, and we put it up, and it's all about their feelings and what they felt over the last few months with all of the things that are going on, COVID, all the stresses that are out there. And I actually open it now every day, and I look at it and say, which feeling am I feeling? And I find something to identify. There's a great piece of a family with these very, very large flowers, and it's just so hopeful and growing. And I just, that's what I looked at a couple of days ago. So it's really, really an opportunity, I guess, for us all to get back to enjoying art as well. I'm hearing day in and day out. I got my camera back out. It's been in the drawer for years, and now I'm walking around enjoying seeing nature and taking pictures and looking more closely at things. And people are taking out their paintbrush again. and I hope they're singing. So the arts are here for so many reasons, but I think in the future we're going to be in an age of health for a long time, and this age of health means we're going to look at not only ourselves and what do we need and how can art help us, but these organizations that are going to open, they're going to need to actually look at their facilities after they get open and say, is this the right facility for me now forward? Is this building healthy? Is there a healthier environment that I should be in? So the arts community, I think, is in for some really, really exciting times. But right now, boy, I worry about food on the table, to be perfectly honest, and we are trying to address that too. So we're asking our donors to help make sure that they're thinking about that.
That is wonderful news. And I know many artists and organizations will be very happy to hear what you're saying right now. But before we forget, you mentioned the website. What will the viewer find when they visit your website?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different opportunities. First and foremost, if you're an artist, it's a great place to go and find programs that you might wish to partake of right now. Some of them have a small fee associated with it, and we ask that not to be an issue. We want people to just reach out to me and say, hey, I'm one of those who's struggling right now, but I really want to share my art, and we just, I write the check. So we don't worry about that. If you're an organization who has a facility, we've got 9 webinars on there right now that talk about various different ways for you to help you facilitate your venue. Soon, we're going to have a bunch of other videos. We've been having a videographer go around with us to help us now compile all those videos from all the different places to share the ideas that they have, so that they can pick and choose what they look at. And then also, if you're I'll call it a patron of the arts, there's a great opportunity there to go and experience art. We have images photography competition, which are coming up after the first of the year, which means that there will be 150 pieces in a virtual show. Last year was the first time we ever did a virtual show, and it was remarkable. It's artists from all across the state, professional to the novice. They're all judged blindly. And what's really fascinating in this world of Zoom and virtual, I've been able to keep the promise of keeping the judges from out of Connecticut, but now we're able to add educational opportunities with those judges. So last year we had a judges talk with 3 judges. One was at Princeton, one was up in Massachusetts, and I'm drawing a blank on the third, but they were from out of state. And typically we wouldn't have the funding to fly them back into town to have that type of an educational opportunity. And we did it online. And the amount of folks that came and enjoyed it in person was in real time was remarkable for us, and it still lives there. So there's a lot of really great opportunities there for folks to go. And then last but not least, there's also just like the great videos that you share about the COVID awareness. For instance, there's a COVID awareness video there that's done with ASL, American Sign Language interpretation, that we're hoping to help share. We feel that keeping present and with everyone being aware of what's going on is important to us. So we're very into making sure that we're addressing a diverse audience in every way. So lots to do there.
Well, as we start to wind down this interview, which has been so wonderful, do you have any closing thoughts for the viewer? I know that there are people that are very interested, not only in you, but in your organization, probably the first time they're hearing about it. What would you like them to know about?
Well, yeah, come and be a part of this great family we call Shoreline Arts Alliance. You can become a member, and there are many different ways you can become a member as as an artist, as an individual, as a family, and just become a part of this very important mission to help arts grow and flourish in the next phase of of the world, really, because it's a very important time. We all need to know that we're in it together, and I'm just completely convinced that if we stick together in all of this, that we will all come out shining brightly. So, Deborah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I love to meet new people. That's why I'm in this business. So send me an email. My direct email is eric@shorelinearts.org. That's ERIC@shorelinearts.org. Or you can send it to office@shorelinearts.org, and it'll find its way to me as well. Let me know what you're thinking, because every day we're looking at the strategy of the future. And if you're thinking something that we need to know about, please tell us and become a part of this. I mentioned the board members. We're always looking for great board members who can help us leverage the future for this organization. It's a working board. We work hard, but we have a great time doing it. And volunteering. So anyway, again, thank you, Deborah.
Well, thank you, Eric, for being our guest today. I greatly appreciate it. I know the viewer has been very enriched by this, and I'm thrilled that you took the time to be with us.
I hope to see you again. Thank you so much, Deborah.
You've been tuned in Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. We've been talking about the Shoreline Arts Alliance, based in Guilford, Connecticut. So please tune in again. I look forward to seeing you then. Have a great day. Bye-bye.